I would like to start by just sharing a little story about how the Interregion Economic Network started. And the idea was, initially, as a university student, I used to think, like many of us do, that what we need to do is to petition the government for each and every problem that we have. And therefore, whenever there's a problem in the media or anywhere else, people will say, why isn't the government fixing this problem? But then at some point in my, as a high school teacher, that's one of my backgrounds actually, I came across a publication by a French writer called Frederic Bastiat, which argues that the government or revolutions can always be caused in the name of people. But after the revolutions again, people normally discover that those who are already in the seat of the government ignore them, and again they cause yet another revolution. So there'll always be revolutions in the name of people, but the people will always remain people suffering, you see? So the book really made me get really annoyed, in the sense that I felt the degree I had received at the university really didn't give me the education I thought I deserved, the education to discover that revolutions in the name of the people rarely serve the people. And I think if you compare that with many of the African governments, we've had so many coups, people being overthrown, presidents being overthrown, and always it's in the name of the people, but when you go back again, you get the people are still having the problem. I'm sure the same could be happening here in Bahamas. You can have politicians promising all sorts of good things, but then once they're in the seat of power, you start again petitioning, but nobody listens. So I started the Interregion Economic Network in 2001, and I remember the first reaction by many Kenyans was, why are you bringing market economic ideas in Kenya? Those are American issues. Free markets in Africa? No, it doesn't work. Maybe the Americans want to use you so that they can get a market in Africa. That's 2001. Now you should come to Kenya, 2007, today. The biggest proponents of market economics are Kenyans. You know the secret? Now Africa is talking about integration. We are talking about East Africa community. Already we have a protocol in place where Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi is one market. You know, you move around, no visas. All you need is identification. You can invest in Rwanda, the Rwandese can invest in Kenya. Now, business people who initially thought free market is out only to benefit big countries are realizing that a Kenyan business person can also tap into the money from Uganda, from Tanzania, from Rwanda and Burundi. As if that is not enough, we have a common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, which moves all the way up to Egypt, 19 African countries, 440 million people. Just 2 weeks ago, they were talking about having a common customs union, which means already business people, the producers, are already realizing that actually when you're talking about economics, economic growth, business, it's a sum total of what each individual person does in a particular country or in a particular region. So I thought I should just share that with you, because I don't know about the situation in Bahamas, but we could be having people who are concerned that if you open the market, maybe you'll hurt the Bahamian people. If you are in a straitjacket made out of metal, you'll be hurt. But if you have a flexible one, you'll not be hurt, because you need to adjust and look for ways of tapping into the bigger market. And I thought I should share with you one of my favorite talking points whenever I meet fellow Africans, whether it's in Kenya or other parts of Africa, and it's about what we call vision. Every time in Africa, we talk about we don't have visionary leaders. And many a times people don't ask themselves, what do you mean by vision? You know, some people say a vision is a good dream, or a vision is a goal. But I've got some inspiration from an African-American economist called Professor Thomas Sowell, who's written a book on visions, and I thought maybe I should just share with you and my friends from Bahamas. In a nutshell, Thomas Sowell argues that a vision can be defined as a sense of causation. You know, the sense you have, you and me, of what causes whatever is happening. For instance, he gives an example. If we pick a native, primitive African person way back 60 years ago, maybe they believed that the leaf that moves, a dry leaf that drops from the tree and floats in the air as it goes down to the ground, is supported by some form of spirit. So there's a spirit carrying the leaf down to the ground. And maybe at some point too, they might have believed that what causes earthquakes are gods. You annoy gods, there'll be an earthquake. What causes floods? Maybe gods at the same time, which means if you annoy the gods, there'll be floods. What causes tides? Maybe gods. So your belief of the sense of causation will determine your vision. For instance, if you believe it's the gods that cause floods, and maybe they need you to sacrifice a goat or a sheep or a chicken, you will slaughter one so that the floods don't kill people, isn't it? Because that's your belief of the sense of causation. What causes the floods? What causes earthquakes? Now, if you look at the African situation and perhaps also the Bahamian situation, what causes poverty? Again, if you believe it's gods, then all you need to do is to sacrifice a goat, a sheep, and poverty will be no more, isn't it? So whenever we discuss about African issues, you know, you watch on TV, like today, I was watching one advertisement on one of the TV channels about the Zamzam kid. And they were talking about famine in Kenya, and they're raising money. They're asking people to donate $10, $5, $20. So we go and feed these hungry children in Africa. And they were talking about they have raised 11 million, I don't know, tons of rice from Thailand. All they need is a few dollars. You donate, so they ship the rice from Thailand, take to Kenya and feed the hungry. Sense of causation. If you believe that people in Africa or people in Bahamas cannot have the ability to address what affects them, then you will always sacrifice the chicken. In this case, you go to Thailand, get 11 tons of rice, and ship it down to Africa. But if you want to really address the African issue or maybe Bahamas issue, you need to start finding out exactly what is the sense of causation. If people are hungry, if people are sick, if people are poor, if people are living on less than $1, why are they living on less than $1? Is it because gods don't love them or something? And again, to pursue further, Thomas Sowell's talk about visions. He says we have generally, or in general terms, two types of approaches to visions. One is the constrained vision. Having a constrained vision means that you believe that unless some superpower comes to save a situation, then people in a particular predicament will never be able to solve the problem that affects them. And then if you look at the example given about the 11 tons of rice, I would say those who are raising the $10, the $20 are doing so because they operate within the constrained vision perimeter. Unless we take the 11 tons of rice, Africans are dead. The question is, before you ship the rice, what are the Africans feeding on? Because you see, as we are raising the money, we have Africans. We have 950 million Africans. So you could see a few of them on TV, maybe appearing or starving. But the issue is there must be something going on. And that's why my presentation today will be about commercializing entrepreneurship in Africa, because there's something going on, but we ignore it. And that's why we have people with these constrained visions who come with all the tons of rice, all the loads of money, and destroy whatever that is already operating. Thomas also says that you could operate under what we may refer to as unconstrained vision. Now, with unconstrained vision, you believe in the human ingenuity to solve whatever affects them, because the survival instinct belongs to all living things. And when we look at the constrained vision, somebody needs to bring aid to save Africa. Unconstrained vision, somebody said there must be something we simply need to nurture and make it grow so that people can tackle the problems that affect them. So in summary, what I would say before I go to my slides, because I want to have a short time of presentations so that I can get questions. I would say that for Africa, we have a big problem, and the problem is nothing to do with money or lack of food, but the problem is something to do with confidence. Because if your confidence has been destroyed by somebody who believes that unless he saves you, you'll never save yourself, then you'll always wait for a handout. And if you're waiting for a handout, what that means is whatever talent you have, you keep it in the pocket. You just wait for somebody else to come and solve your problem. And the second problem we have is what I'll refer to as attitude to the market. Because you've been waiting for long, and there's somebody who is always, let me use this word, pretending to help you, when in essence it's not helping, because if they were helping 40 years after all the countries in Africa got independence, now we should be very happy suppliers of resources. Africa is known to have lots of minerals, but at the same time we are talking about a poor continent. So if we had a good attitude towards the market, then we'd not be talking about the African problem. What do I mean by good attitude towards the market? We are still living under the hangover of we should supply whatever we produce to our former colonial governments. Let's say Kenya would supply tea to United Kingdom, and maybe Tanzania does the same. So you'll get several countries in Africa producing tea, coffee, and they're all rushing to Europe, producing flowers, all rushing to Europe. And then when there's a problem, like now with the global warming debate and carbon footprints debate, now they say we won't take your flowers because a lot of carbon is spent getting the flowers from Nairobi to maybe Amsterdam. Now, Africans are waking up to the fact that even Africans are consumers, because you can't be talking about no market for your cup of coffee, and that 6 million Kenyans don't even consume coffee. Maybe just a few guys, in the city. Now you're saying you don't have a market for tea. 950 million Africans have not seen your tea, which means under the constrained vision operation, you've been always ignoring the resource right at your home, at your doorstep. And that's the kind of work we do at the Interregion Economic Network, to point out to our fellow Africans that don't ignore this market, which is just right within your house. And if you do that, you are going to be able to start commercializing entrepreneurship. Well, somebody told me some time back, but entrepreneurship is already commercial, So why should we have a discussion on commercializing entrepreneurship? So I like just to ask, we move on to the, well, what my slide shows there is a typical open market in Africa. I know in the modern world we have also supermarkets, the huge shopping malls, but then we have open markets where people negotiate, you bargain, there's no fixed price. If you are good, if you know how to bargain, you can buy an item at half a price. And this has been happening before even African communities or tribes were colonized, and after. This market system has never died. And if you talk about free market, you can see where the actual free market is. Prices determined by, haggling. If this one says it's too expensive, you move to the next one. You see they're offering almost, if not similar products. But they always stop here. They don't move to the next level. Because you're here, you've gotten your maybe $20 in a day, you go back home, then again the following day you come back, are available. People have medicine. There have been suggestions about use of bed nets, but nobody is really investing heavily in why not kill the mosquito. If you have 1 million mosquitoes, 10 billion mosquitoes in Africa, that's money, isn't it? If we quantify that and say, for whoever kills 1 million mosquitoes, he'll be paid this much. You've already started tackling the malaria problem from a business, a commercialized aspect. And that one will make malaria cease to be really a problem, but a huge opportunity, because again, we have so many African graduates who say, we don't have jobs. We are unemployed because they want to work for the government. They want to work for the non-jobs, constrained vision. Nobody wants to go out unconstrained, and try out something new. So I just give an illustration there of one of the activities our think tank came up with, because for the last 4 years, people started asking us, in Africa, if you think too much and people are dying, nobody will listen to you, because you can't just be a think tank. You can't give us statistics. People are dying, Every time you're thinking, somebody's dying. You've heard of the data campaign where they say, click your fingers and people are dying, isn't it? So our organization decided to take care of that concern by coming up with what we refer to as do tank, creating business units among young people. And one of them we set up was a business to do the indoor residue spraying. We get young people trained on how to spray houses. That's a hut in the village. And on average, each hut costs, in terms of dollars, I should say 1.5. And there's a special chemical you spray on the wall, protects the house for 6 months. Because mosquitoes have one habit. They'll bite, back to the wall, rest a bit, come back, bite you again, back to the wall. And what the chemical does is take care of the mosquito that decides to rest on the wall. Because once you go to the wall, you never go back again. But if the mosquito flies direct through the window, boom, that one can bite you. So there's a program already. These young people are running business. They have sprayed around 900 households, and we're setting up 12 units in the country. Straight the point that you can turn whatever you call a problem into a huge opportunity that will make young people make money, at the same time solve a huge problem. And the other one is urbanization. Because one way to start driving commercialization is to address the needs of the urban life. People in the rural areas might use the sun to calculate time. They say, I'll meet you at sunrise. I'll meet you when the sun is overhead. I'll meet you when the sun is going down, isn't it? But when you move to urban areas, we don't operate using sunrise, sunset. Everybody's looking at the watch because they are working. They need to. So there's busy life. Busy life means no time to prepare food in an elaborate manner. But somebody else can be there to do the preparation of the food. Restaurants. This person will not go to the farm to start getting farm produce. Somebody else can be there to start offering farm produce in the supermarkets. Here I just use an illustration of an entrepreneur who is trying to address a need. That's, maybe let me call it a snack. He has just his snack factory outside his house. Now, what I'm talking about is commercialization. In Nairobi, we have 2.7 million people in the city, Nairobi city alone. Now, if we commercialized the response of this entrepreneur who is having his snack factory outside the door, and we came up with an approach where he can produce en masse and supply to 2.7 million city residents, we are looking at a huge business partner. If he's selling this donut maybe at 50 cents dollars, then it's 2 times 2.7 million. That's if he's successful. Then we are looking at big money, and we are looking at life changed. And we are not talking about poverty here. Of course, when you come to Africa, every time you talk about Africa, if it's not farming, it's about music and dancing, isn't it? They say we dance, and if it's not dancing, and I like music, by the way, if it's not dancing, it will be something to do with tourism. looking at wildlife and elephants and lions and, So nobody's associating Africans with anything to do with and business. It's a lot to do with dance and a lot to do with what? Wildlife. But then, the point is, if you listen keenly to the music, if you observe keenly the dancing, you can see the confidence that the African executes when he's performing his tradition. If you want to commercialize the entrepreneurship in Africa, one entry point is through culture, because culture is very much in the heart of the African person. And we can communicate that through music. We can communicate that through some of these activities. And if I may just give an example how that can be done, again, our organization works every year with the young people to have what we call a cultural day. Our think tank does is to get them a top business person as a guest speaker, or if they want a politician, they choose. And you can see the motivation, the confidence that they develop when they put together a big event of music, bicycle racing, football, dancing, and name it. When that happens, the next level, when you talk about business, do you think they'll be scared? Because putting together cultural day is a business fit, because they have to spend money, they have to raise money, people must pay to participate, and that in itself is a good introduction to doing business. What else do we do? Passion. I'm just showing you an illustration of passion here. I don't know if it comes out nicely. But what we do is we are working with the universities in Kenya, 15 of them, and we've set up what we call something close to business clubs. We encourage members of these clubs to set businesses around their university communities, and once in a year, the teams, as we refer to them, to converge in one spot and make a presentation about the businesses that they do. We have a judging format, and then we invite business CEOs of different companies to come and be judges. We don't invite us. There's a reason. Because we don't want the students to define for us what's business, what's economics. No. We want them to tell us what they did and what money they were able to make. In this case, everybody comes hoping to win. But obviously, out of 15, we must get only one person. But the biggest lesson here is we are teaching young people the importance of failing, because we have to fail, isn't it? Failure is something like a sin. But then if you look at business, how many times do people fail before they succeed? Many times, isn't it? And unless we introduce this to young people, Africa and maybe Bahamas, that failure is important if you want to succeed in business. If you want to wake up after you failed, then you are the right person we need. So we do this every year, and it's very the picture I'm just showing here is a picture of University of Nairobi students that won this year's championship. And the lady over there is the managing director of Post Bank, Kenya. And this is just an illustration I thought I should share with people in Bahamas, that the you have, we also have them in Africa. And I don't think the best way would be for us to say, let's blame China. Okay, let's blame Europe, big giants, and they're fighting it out. In fact, at the moment, they're using Africa as their battleground, isn't it? With China rolling money. Europe saying, oh, maybe we didn't give enough, let's give more again. The United States, oh, maybe we should even increase. But the point is, the danger is to us as the people who receive this money. The confidence is eroded, and therefore we don't start addressing our own needs. You get even our education system ignoring the fact that they need to be producing graduates who respond to our needs. And in that case, we start outward for solution when the solution is right within us. And at that point, I'd like to say thank you. Welcome questions.